Hello, my name's Nicholas, and today what I'd like to do is go through my system for layering long hair. Now, I would say that the majority of clients that come in and they have their hair long, want to do something different with it. And really what they're talking about is doing something different with the top part of their hair, So with this particular technique, what we're going to be showing you is how you can create really nice soft volume on the top and keeping the length that the client wishes, There are two things that come into play here. We have the balance points, which we've talked about in previous DVDs, which is going to be the crown and the occipital bone. And these 2 points I am going to use to create the length that I need on the top. Now, the other thing that I would like to talk about is what I'm going to be doing in the front, because what I want to do is I want to give Michiko rather a long fringe, And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting a line in from her lip, and it's going to come down, so that it joins up with the length that I've created on the base, And I'm going to do that on both sides. And I have a specific technique for doing that that does not include over direction. What I would like to do now is I would like to show you how I put this particular line in from the lip all the way through to my baseline here. Now, I would say that the most common way of doing this particular angle is to take a section like this and then comb the hair and pull it over. So what I'm doing is I'm over directing the hair at the root, cutting this point here. And the problem that I see with this particular system is that if I have misjudged my over direction, then what's going to happen is that after I've cut this will then move back to the position that it grows from, and it could be too short. So what we do is, as I have mentioned in previous tapes, is when we take a section, we have to take a section so that it is following the root system. So this is what I meant when I talked about this in my introduction, that there is no over direction. So what I do is I take a small section following the root system, comb the hair from the root, lay the fingers right against the client's face, and the angle of my fingers, has to be in line with the angle that I want the hair to fall into, and then I cut up. Now, what's going to happen now is that this section here, will be my guideline for my next section. So I take the next section, comb it, bring it down. We can see my guideline here. My fingers are resting right against the client's face, and I'm cutting up. Take the next section, and as you can see, each time I'm taking a section, I am actually getting longer and longer. So I'm all the way down to this point right now, and I'm still not even anywhere close to finishing the side section. So each section, bring it down, comb it, keep the fingers as close to the client's body as you can, until you have reached the length that you have put in the base, which actually now is going to be my very last section to there. So now what I've got is I've got a really nice straight line that comes all the way through, with my baseline still being the length that I want it to be. Now on the right hand side, we're going to do exactly the same thing. The only difference is that my fingers now are going to be pointing upwards. So what I can do here is I can take a section from the previous side, bring it down, I have my guideline here, fingers right against the skin, and then I'm cutting straight up and down. I think the most important thing to remember about doing this particular system is really not to do any over direction into the hair whatsoever. Because when we cut our lines in, we have to make sure that the hair falls exactly from the place that it grows. So that way, when the client blows their hair dry, the hair is going to fall where it should, which means it's going to make it that much easier for the client to reproduce what we have done in the salon. Now you can see how I've combed it. You can see that the hair just comes through and it cups right underneath the chin in a really, really nice soft fashion. So what I'd like to do now is just go through the sections with you. So as you can see here on the top, this is our square section. And then everything is pied out from that section. And the one thing that I would like you to notice is that when I get to this section here, which is right behind the ear, I have dropped out a section of hair so that when I'm actually layering it, because the client has no hair right here, right behind the ear, this will prevent my layering from becoming too thin when I get to this area here. So that is why this is dropped out. Everything else is pied off. So we have a section here, section here, section here, all the way around, okay? Now, the reason why I put as many sections as I do into the hair is because I think one of the most common things that happens when we're cutting long hair is that we get lost. And the reason why we get lost with our sections, okay, is because what we tend to do is we tend to use each section as a guideline for the next section. And so sometimes we come all the way through, we're right here in the middle of the head, we have so much hair in our hands that we cannot see our guideline, and therefore we get lost. So with this particular technique, our only guide is going to be this top section here, this square section. Each section that I take is a stand-alone section. So for instance, when I start off here on the ear section, this section here is not going to be a guideline for the section that I'm going to take behind the ear, which is not going to be a guideline for this next section. And that's going to follow all the way through. So I think that's really important because that way we can control exactly the sections that we're cutting so that we are constantly seeing our guide, which is going to be from this square section on the top. Now, coming into how we're going to layer the hair. As I mentioned previously, okay, I'm going to work between my two balance points. First balance point is going to be the crown, and the second balance point is going to be the occipital bone. I would say that most clients that come in and have long hair and want to do something different with it will want to have some kind of very soft layering. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking this top section here and I'm going to be measuring it down to the occipital bone. If I had a client, for instance, that wanted to have something that was very short and punky on the top, then what I would do is I would take this section of hair, this square section, and measure it just to the crown area, which would make this hair jump up. Now, the reason why this is so important is because what it's going to do is it's going to stop us from asking the client how short she really wants to have the top. Because during our consultation, what we have to do is we have to basically paint a picture for the client about how the finished look is going to be. Once she has agreed with what she sees, okay, then we're going to be able to create the length that we want by using these two balance points without asking the client how short she wants to have the hair. Now we're going to start at the top of the head with our square section, and because we're going to be putting soft layering into the hair, okay, I'm going to measure this down, just down to the occipital bone. Now, the thing to remember is that you cannot measure any lower than the bone, because if you measure any lower than the bone, then what's going to happen is that you're going to lose your shape. Your shape is going to become very weak, and the client is going to leave looking like she needs to have a haircut because it's going to look grown out. So the occipital bone is as long as I can leave it. So I'm going to measure this down, lift it, okay, and then when I cut, I'm going to be cutting straight across. Okay, as clean as possible with a lot of tension. Okay, now remember, this is going to be my guideline, okay, for my next section. And what I like to do is I always like to start over the ear. Okay, so I take that entire section, lift it. Here's my guideline. Okay, I'm going to lift it straight up. Okay, and I have a guideline here, and I have a guideline here from the base. Okay, so I know that everything in between has got to go. Now, the thing to remember is that the longer your hair is, then the steeper the angle is going to be. So if you got hair all the way down to here, for instance, okay, when you lift that hair up, then your angle is going to be even steeper than what I'm putting into the hair right now. And so then I take my next section, okay, coming through, all right, notice that I'm not taking my ear section as my guideline, okay, there's my dropout, all right, and taking this hair now and going back to my square section on the top, lifting that hair and cutting that length off. Then bringing this down, putting it back into its home again. Take my next section, lift this, again coming back to the crown area. Okay, lifting it straight out from the head. Okay, there's my guideline here. And coming through to my longest point on the bottom, right here. So it's always good, I always feel like it's really, really good to have two guidelines to go to. You know, especially when we're cutting long hair. So once again, picking up that square section on the top. Okay, lots of tension with each section. Pulling it straight out from the head. Okay. You know, and if the hair is quite long, you may have to just pick it up a couple of times, but at least having the two guidelines to go to, okay, is going to make it so much easier. Okay, so now I have combed the hair after I've cut it, okay, and you can see how it falls into its shape. We've got the volume happening up on the top, all right? We have got this nice soft texture coming underneath the chin, and so now I'm going to be ready to blow dry. When I blow dry, what I'm going to be using a flat brush, because I want my cut to create the shape that I want. So I'm not going to be using a round brush or a Denman brush. I'm just going to be using a flat brush. And then that way I can really see the shape that I've cut into the hair. Okay, so now we're ready to look at the finished look. I would like to go over a few pointers just to review. Okay, take a square section on the top. Radiate your sections around. Remember to use your square section as your guide for all of the sections that you've cut into the hair. When we come around to do the front, remember, take your partings parallel with the way that the hair is growing. Start at the lips, okay? Keep your fingers into the angle that you want the hair to fall into, and do absolutely no over direction. And now this is the finished look. So now we see an alternative shape to what we have just done.